Speaking freedom, giving you the answers to be free. Be free.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's performance is about to begin.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Speaking Freedom TV. This is Life of a Veteran podcast. Today we have our special guest, Luke. Hey, Luke.
Hey, Dr. Kaci, how's life?
It's good. It's lifing.
It's busy, I'll bet.
It is. I have two children, so that kind of keeps me going a little bit, as well as trying to manage and build a brand. It's overwhelming at times.
But you're doing it, right?
I am. I will not give up. I do a little by little, and I actually see that I've accomplished some goals, like some things that I wanted to do, some milestones. So that part is the rewarding part, because I see what I've said I wanted to do actually coming into fruition.
Hey, well, there are a lot of people that want to do things. Rarely do you find someone that actually gets out there and tackles it. So I appreciate that about you already. Tackling it.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
So, Luke,
Yeah.
tell us about your story. You're a veteran, correct?
I am a veteran. Yeah. So
What branch?
So active Army for 20 years.
Okay.
And different parts will probably come out as we're talking tonight. But yeah, so the general feel, when I was born in Long Beach, California, south side of LA. My dad was in the Coast Guard. And when I finished high school, I had moved around a lot, and I was in Oakland, California, raised my right hand. My dad was still in the military. And about halfway through all that, he became a single dad there. My mom left. And so here I am underneath the single dad household, military. So the structure, I knew right away I needed that structure. I got in a lot of trouble too in high school and middle school. Yeah, so joined the Army in 1997, got out in 2017. So spent years just doing the grind, doing the Army stuff. And now my family, we live on the south side of Indianapolis, living in the city. I really love it out here. We get all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
But let me tell you what I don't have to do. I don't have to get up in the morning at 6 o'clock and go stand in formation.
Right.
I know that.
So
If I
when
get-
you went
yeah.
in, did you plan on doing 20 years? Like, was that when I was joining the Army, I was like, look, I'm going to retire at 37. This is the plan right here. What was your plan when you joined?
I think I went back and forth. Man, what a great question. You're going to put me in my feels on this one. Okay. So at basic training, I was looking at my drill sergeants thinking, I want to be them one day. I want to be that guy with a hat on. I want to be that guy.
Maybe sharp.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of our memories, I hope some people do have some bad memories, but mine are good. And so I went to my job school. I did satellite communications. So I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for about 8 months. And the first place the Army sent me was Korea. And I did okay over there. I had a good time, but man, I had a couple NCOs that kind of burnt me wrong, and started getting a little down on the military ride. But don't worry, the story gets better. Then I went to Fort Bragg, good old 82nd Airborne, and it didn't get a whole lot better. I was the guy at the rifle ranges. I'd go into the porta potty, and I'd pull out my Sharpie, and I'd write FTA, F the Army. I'm like, man, I was done. But then I went to PLDC at the time to go be a sergeant, and during the school, I made the cutoff score for points. And so at the end of the school, the battalion commander, he came out and he promoted 5 of us to Sergeant E5. And I had a 4-day weekend. And I came back to the motor pool, and they switched companies. They switched me companies, and I had 3 soldiers. I went from having no soldiers to having 3 soldiers. Yes. And it didn't take but a week for me to realize, all right, this is what I've kind of been waiting for. I can like affect things now. And yeah, it was a good ride after that. I just had to have some real honest to goodness responsibility to wake me up. So at that point, I knew it was going to be 20 years of bust.
Yeah. I think that I've talked to a lot of people that their first duty station was Korea. Mine was also Korea.
What part? Where were you at?
Wonju at Lord, you just asked me too fast. Camp Eagle.
Camp Eagle. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So what year were you there?
I was there in 2001 to 2002.
We might have overlapped. So yeah.
Listen, I wish I would have stayed there. If I would have knew then what I knew after I left. I would have stayed in Korea because Korea was not a bad duty station. But nine
It
11
wasn't.
happened and it was just so much. I had knee problems. I was just ready to come home. I thought I was missing something. I think that's what it really was. For it to be my first duty station, it felt like I'm missing something back at home. But I got home and same shit that was going on when I
Same.
left was still going on.
Yep. Yeah. And did you have to stay over there longer than the 1 year?
No, no. If I would have extended, I probably would have, but no, it was just 1 year. I'm telling you, I thought I was missing something. I was ready to leave. I was ready to bolt.
Yeah. So I went over there in '01. So when 9/11 happened, I was a sergeant at Fort Bragg. And so the whole battalion is getting ready to go support the 101st and SF in Afghanistan, but not me. Not me, because I had already re-enlisted with Korea, back to Korea. And so I'm helping everyone do all the prep to go get deployed. I'm thinking, what about me? No, I went to Korea. So while I'm in Korea, Iraq kicks off.
Mhm.
And so now we got people in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we didn't have enough people to replace us in Korea. So I ended up doing an extra 3 months over there. I was a little bitter about that. I was
You
a little
was?
bit. I was, because I was ready to go.
What
Because
part
part of
of
my
Korea were you in?
Yeah. So the first time I was up in Second ID up north at Camp House. It's an
Mhm.
engineer battalion. It's closed down now. My second time was at Camp Humphreys, and Camp Humphreys, the hump is
Oh,
real. It's built up now. And
I can only imagine.
even then, it was built up. It was a pretty sweet gig. But when I re-enlisted, it was for 18 months. I got 20 grand. I got some
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
But going over there for 18 months was already a lot of time. Then you add 3 months onto that. It just, yeah, I felt like, man, come on, how you gonna do me like that?
Yeah.
But
It
I
always feel like that at the end of your duty at a station. Be ready. You just ready to go. It's
that's
like
right.
you have mentally processed. It is time to leave, and I'm ready to go.
I mean, it could be Hawaii if you're there for 3 years, but at the end they make you stay. It's like, come
Yeah,
on. But at the same
yeah,
time,
yeah.
it's Hawaii. So yeah, but I made staff sergeant over there. I did okay. I didn't have any Article 15s that time. I had two Article 15s as a private my first time in Korea.
Really?
Lord, I did. Did
What
you
you
not?
was doing that? What you was
Hold on.
with
Did
them
you
juicy
never
girls?
experience?
You
Did you
like them
never?
juicy girls?
So I mean, sure, but that wasn't why.
Right, right.
Yeah. So the first time it was actually because of Juicy Girls. So um, me being in satellite communications, but I was on a 12 Bravo base and engineer base. We just
Mm-hmm.
had there's only 6 of us there doing commo, and one of the sergeants he decided he wanted to go down to Osan Air Force Base and go clubbing.
Mm-hmm.
Now it was about an hour 45 drive, a 2 hour drive. So what's the best thing to do? Hey, Private Grim, get in the Humvee, drive.
Mm-hmm.
So for almost 2 straight months, it was him, what was it? A specialist and a corporal and me, PV2 Grim, and I was told to drive. I was 18. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't trying to go clubbing. And I said, this is probably a bad idea to take a Humvee on the weekends down to Osan Air Force Base. Damn sure it was. So yeah, one weekend, one of the guys on Sunday got up to go to class 6 to go get some more beer on a Sunday morning in the Humvee, and
Oh,
he barely hit a Korean cab. I mean, just barely. But a Humvee is gonna,
yeah, do a
so
lot of damage.
he tried to pay him off for like 10,000 won, which is like $8.
Right.
Eight, come
Was he
on.
serious?
He tried, man. It's all he had. eight
Right.
bucks. And so this guy was not having it. So he called the Korean police, who called the Air Force Security Forces, who of course called our units. Man, so we all got Article 15s. I went from E2 to E1.
I had an
Yeah.
Article 15 before. Um,
You
so
don't seem like a person that gets nervous. You seem too
listen,
nice.
I definitely had Article 15. I had when I was in Korea, I damaged my knee. So they wanted to do surgery. The reason why I was really anxious to get back because I didn't want surgery in Korea. It just didn't sit right with me. So when I came back, they sent me to Kansas. I was at Fort Riley and it wasn't bad, but I was having knee issues, so I had surgery or whatever. And the second time I had surgery, I was on crutches, and one of the sergeants was up in my face yelling because I wasn't cleaning up or doing something that was extra that somebody else clearly could have done. And I like being in my face is like a violation. Like we didn't go through that for real in basic training. Like, and then they were nice people, when we had drill sergeants. So even when they would try to be mean, it'd be like, we see you laughing and joking. You ain't really mean like that. Like, ain't you? So, but this guy, he was like one of those people that had to prove a point type of
Sure.
thing. So he never was in charge. Nobody ever listened to him. So this day he tried me and I was yelling at him. And so he wrote me up and I ended up getting an Article 15. And I actually got my rank. They didn't take my money at first. They just took the rank. And then we had change of command and a new first sergeant came and then they took my money for a little while. But as soon as we got to Iraq, I got my rank back because I ran the warehouse. Nobody else could run the warehouse as sufficiently as I did. And they was mad. Oh, they was real mad. It was, I didn't have a bad experience in the military, but definitely my time in Iraq was very dreary on me. It was like, I felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. And then they wasn't always supportive. Then my knee was messed up. I volunteered to go. Like I had just had surgery, so I was like, "You can lift my pro." I'm out in the first sergeant office, like, "Oh, lift my profile. They not going without me. I'm fighting too." And then I got over there, and then they was like mad because I guess I was more of a soldier than they expected. They thought I was a sham artist because I had been having surgery, so I was like chilling. I did, you know what I'm saying? Get my little.
Well, everybody does at some point.
Yeah.
Everybody. So you would have been a 92 Yankee?
Alpha.
All right. I tell you what, that's a lot of pressure though, going over there and running a warehouse.
It really is. But and then we were in a very bad place where like when it was time for me to go, because they let me come back early, which is why I got out. On our way to the convoy, they stopped the convoy because they said we was gonna get attacked because we got attacked coming in. So they wouldn't really let you convoy out like that. And then we ended up taking a Black Hawk, and that was like a month or two after those Black Hawks got shot down. So it was just, that was intense too, but I made it. I'm here.
That's right. And you're not just here, you got some fancy letters in front of your name now.
Yeah. I mean, it's an honorary doctorate, but it's still there. You know what I'm saying? Like some people don't even get that.
I don't have any of that. No, not even mad. So you got Article 15. Good for you. So my second,
like bad. It was one of those things that he was really trying to prove a point. So I never really felt bad about it.
So that one, listen to your story. It's tough because, I mean, I got it. We're not supposed to yell at NCOs. We know that, but sometimes,
yeah, they'll try you.
I mean, we got to go put our head down on our pillow at night saying, I did my best job today. And if you got to lay your head down thinking, I got walked all over today and I did nothing about it.
Yeah.
That's tough.
It is really tough. And the thing is that NCOs know that because they've been there. But it's like when you're being raised in your environment, some people are bullies because they were bullied. And so instead of saying, I'm going to be better than what I experienced, they try to put you through what they experienced because, well, I went through it and survived type thing. So, because, and then when you said you joined for the structure, I didn't come up in a military home. However, I definitely saw the structure, and that was the most appealing thing to me about joining the military.
Well, I needed it. In fact, I wasn't done needing that structure once I was in. So my second Article 15 in Korea, I've had 3 total. So my second one in Korea, well, you got to rewind. So my middle school, 5th to 8th grade, I was living in Baltimore and Washington, D.C. And just going to middle school as being a kid. Then 9th grade, my dad got stationed in Hawaii. Pretty sweet, right? 9th, 10th, 11th grade in Hawaii. That is pretty cool, except I don't know if your camera's working well, but did you know that I'm white? Can you see that on your screen? That I'm really white. And my mom's full Irish. So here I go to this high school of 2,400 kids, 11% white. And I'm trying to fit in. Like I am the minority trying to fit in. And I realized I was really good at shoplifting. Like I had a skill at this thing. And I figured, well, I don't know. But I would go steal things from different, like the Pearl Harbor, they got the Navy Exchange or the different PXs. And I'd bring stuff to school and sell it for like $1, thinking that was making me friends. So I almost didn't get a joint because I got caught doing that as a senior at this place I was working at, sporting goods store. Anyways, I'm in Korea And I would go down to Yongsan, go into the PX and there in Seoul, and I would take off stickers like on a
And
VH.
uh-huh,
Yeah, I take off a sticker like $17 on a VHS. I put on like a $7 sticker.
uh-huh.
So in my mind, I'm like, hey, I'm not shoplifting. This
Right.
is okay. Yeah. So Harrison Ford, he has a movie called The Fugitive, and this is the
Hmm.
movie I actually got caught on. I put a sticker on there, and my freaking ridiculous ass. So on the way, I get done paying $7. Took me like 5 minutes at the checkout to finally get 7 instead of 17. And this whole time, I didn't know that, but she notified people who were
Yeah,
watching the
that,
tape. And I
yeah.
could have left, but instead I'm like, oh, I'm gonna veer off and go pay my Star card, my DPP at the time.
Oh,
So I go make a payment, takes enough time so they catch me. So they got to come back down and pick me up. So I just got my E2 back down to E1. Like, come on. And oh my gosh. Yeah. So I got 2 right there in Korea. And I still put in to go to West Point. So I was a private and somebody said, oh man, Grim, you're pretty intelligent. Yeah, right. You're pretty intelligent. You should like do this pack and go to the academy. You'll never believe this, Casey, Dr. Casey, but my company commander said no because I had 2 Article 15s in 6 months. Weird. So weird they said no
right.
to that. So no West Point for me. Enlisted for 20 years. That's okay.
So what did you like most about your experience?
I mean, we've only talked about some of it. So quickly, it was Korea to Fort Bragg, Korea to Fort Bragg, and then we'll get to the what I thought was kind of the highlight. So I'm at Fort Bragg for my second time, and I'm like, I'm clearly in a cycle. Clearly, I'm Korea Bragg, Korea Bragg. And one of the warrant officers like, yo, Staff Sergeant Grimm, like I used to date this girl that works at the drill sergeant branch. Like, dude, she'll hook you up. We talked for about a day, and I put in my packet. About 3 weeks later, I get orders on my Army email for recruiting school. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not how this is supposed to work. So I talked to the warrants, like, I don't know, man, you got to call her. So I give her a call. It's like, look, there is always room for another recruiter in America, but there are only 5 drill sergeant slots for you. So they sent me to Minnesota. And this is where my Army experience kind of diverged from normal. Can you imagine being on active duty military and they send you to small town Minnesota? There was no active Army anywhere in Minnesota. And so now I'm not in a barracks. I got to live in an apartment. There's no dining facility. I got to like,
Yeah,
have you heard,
yeah, adult.
yeah, yeah. Have you heard of this thing? It's new. It should be coming to an area near you. It's called cooking food.
Right.
I wasn't ready for that. So yeah,
Listen, it,
I was
it the military really spoil you because you go from living with your parents in most cases to now living in the military establishment where you're not paying no bills, you're not doing nothing. And then if you get in the position where you have to pay bills, it's like a culture shock because it's like, wait a minute now, I ain't used to all of this.
So I'm going through the Minneapolis recruiting battalion, the in process, and I stop at a Best Buy. I'm like, I got to have this computer. I can't be a single NCO without a computer. So I get a Best Buy credit card and I forget that I have a credit card. Fast forward like a year and 3/4, almost 2 years. I'm back at Fort Gordon for the next NCO school.
Hmm.
And the clearance people are giving me a call. It's like, yo, you need to get hold of these people that are taking you to collections. I'm like, collections? I about lost my top secret clearance
Really?
because I wasn't paying any of my bills for like a year and a half.
None
And
of them?
well, that one. And
Oh,
so
okay.
when they send something to collections, that's like a big deal for your clearance. And if it would have been a secret, maybe not a big deal, but for a TS,
Hmm.
yeah, I was like, oh man, I bet I need to fix myself. And then I was in a 1-bedroom apartment with no furniture. I just didn't buy any. That's how immature, because I was used to
Right,
having a barracks.
right.
I,
And
I
the
literally,
barracks is a strange environment.
it is right. And okay, so I'm in this 1-bedroom apartment, sleeping on the floor for a year and a half. I put down my sheet. I'd lay on down there with my pillow. I put a blanket over me. All I had to do was go buy a bed.
You
I
didn't
just
get
did
no air mattress, no nothing.
no futon, no air mattress. I had a
What's
13-inch
wrong
flat
with it?
screen. I had a 13-inch TV with a little DVD player on the side. And it wasn't too bad until I started dating my current wife, and she came in one time. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And like she knows I've been here for a year and a half. And there's my bed on the floor. It's like sheets and a blanket. It was so embarrassing. Yeah, my wife kind of helped pull me out of the pit of immaturity there.
It
So
sounds like that. It's a I feel like it's a meme or something with somebody sleeping on the middle of the floor related to the military. But that 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 is a sight to see, especially coming in. So wait a minute, how did that affect y'all like dating and all of that? Because she had to be like, oh my god, why are you sleeping on the floor?
yeah, that week, like within 7 days of first seeing the place, I went and got a pull-out couch, or at least had a
Hmm.
couch and a pull-out. I had something. And then after I proposed to her, I was like, I should go buy a bed. So I went and
Right,
bought a bed. So I had to go. It's not that I didn't have the money. I mean, single NCO, nothing really to spend
right.
money on.
Especially if you ain't spending no money on furniture and stuff.
Nope. And so, yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. In fact, that was really embarrassing. And then the dining facility, I mean, I was used to getting 3 a day. And so now I'm out here by myself. I'm like, I'm not to cook anything. What the hell's that about? So look at that McDonald's though. That's like easy. And so out of 21 meals a week, probably 19 of them were eaten out, and the other two would just be like ramen at the apartment.
Right.
It was bad. Yeah, I failed my first PT test ever in the Army, right there in recruiting, and I busted tape all in the same morning. It's just eating
Oh
fast
my god,
food,
just eating fast food.
gas station food, coffee shops, and recruiting. Yeah, so that was another maturity wake up call. You know,
Man, I can't even imagine. I'm trying to think. When I was in the army, I didn't always eat at the chow hall, but I always cooked. I always would get a hot plate or
would you?
something and cook. Yeah, I always cooked. A lot of the guys, especially in Korea, the guys would go buy food and I would go in the kitchen. I would cook it. Like I always cooked. I cooked for almost everybody. And even in my when I was in Kansas, I used to have a hot plate and I would cook. So I mean, even if it was just frying some chicken or something simple, like it would
Yeah.
be not always extravagant things, but it was I never starved.
There was somebody that put this in my head. Did you have separate rations at the time, or did you have a meal card?
I think I always had a meal card.
So someone really put this in my head. Let's say separate rations. We'll just say $300,
Hmm.
and they're like, okay, so you got this $300. Go buy your food. But if you don't, if you got a meal card, the army has already spent that $300 for you.
Hmm.
You just got to go pick up the food 3 times a day.
Hmm.
And so every time I go to Taco Bell or go to the Shopette or whatever, I've spent $300 plus.
Hmm.
And it didn't take long once someone proposed that to me for it to sink in. I'm like, dang. So you're getting 300 in separate rats to buy your food. I got the meal card plus I'm probably spending $300 on food.
Right.
I don't see that being even. So I started really hard and heavy going to the dining facility. So when I had to cook on my own, man, I was just a disaster. I was a mess. My wife still remembers this. I mean, yeah, but it's all good. And then, yeah. So yeah, okay. The question was, what was the favorite part? My best part. So the best part comes next. So I'm on recruiting. It's a 3-year gig, and at the 2-year mark, I get an email from the command sergeant major there in battalion at Minneapolis, and my station commander. That's what they call him in charge of recruiting company or recruiting station. We're both staff sergeants. He's like, hey, Sergeant Graham. No, we were both sergeant first class at the time. Hey, come on my office. And he shows me this email from the sergeant major saying, please let Sergeant First Class Grimm know that he is extended in recruiting for 6 months. I'm like, come on, really? It's like we said earlier. It's like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
The F bombs that were coming out of my mouth. He had to send me home for the day. Okay. It took me about a week, but I made my peace. It's not going to be 3 years. It'll be 3 years and 6 months. It is what it is. Guess what happens 6 months later?
They extended you again.
The identical. However, they added, please let Sergeant First Class Grimm know he is extended in recruiting and is pending an involuntary conversion. So an involuntary conversion to 79 Romeo, which is permanent recruiter.
Oh my God. You must have been a good ass recruiter.
I did pretty well. I did pretty well. Not because of,
You had to start fucking up. If you would have started, see, I mean, you probably weren't thinking like that, but I would have started
oh,
fucking up. Like, wait a minute, I ain't that
well,
good.
I did have my third Article 15 out there. We can talk about that too. I didn't lose rank or money, but I was a staff sergeant, got another Article 15. At any rate, I got that email. I'm like, I'm not freaking no. I'm at like 8 years in. I'm not permanent recruiter. And some people want that. I'm not dogging that,
Hmm.
but it needs to be a choice.
Yeah.
And so I went back to my original plan of going to drill sergeant school. No. First, I put in paperwork to go to 75th Ranger Regiment. Battalion commander turned it down 5 times because
Why?
he didn't want a recruiter getting hurt at Ranger School. Now he was an SF Ranger guy out there getting command time. And he's like, you're going to get hurt. Everyone gets hurt. People push through it. I need you recruited. 5 times he turned it down until he called me into his office and I drove down so he could explain why. Okay. So I called SF because I had been to SFAS. I tried that out and I got hurt. That's another story. And they said, well, we can't take you. So what are you freaking, you're SF. How can you not take? I thought SF trumped everything.
Right.
They don't. I thought they did for years. And that's what I thought you trumped everything. It's like, no, we don't trump TRADOC, all the training for AITs, and we don't trump USAREC. I said, okay, well, I'm in USAREC, so that makes sense because you can't have special forces without recruiters.
Right.
But they said TRADOC, okay, which means drill sergeant duty could get me out of this. So I called drill sergeant branch again. I put it in. I got accepted. Everyone tried to talk me out of it. Man, you're never going to get promoted going one to the next. Gave them all the middle finger with love. I went down to drill sergeant school. I made it, came back to recruiting to clear. And so my best time in the military would have been those 2 years wearing the drill sergeant hat, doing the basic training thing. And that is another grow up stage, those 2 years. I think everyone should get an experience of 1 month pushing soldiers through drill sergeant or through basic training. It's a real wake up call to what it means to be an NCO. So that would be my top.
So when you say it's a real wake up call, what do you mean?
So I thought that having being a team leader of 4 soldiers or a squad leader of, 10, even a platoon sergeant, maybe that's got 50 or 60, there's just nothing really replaces having these 60 brand new recruits that a week ago, man, they got mohawks, they wearing stilettos, they got those nails on, and they just took them off. They don't have a clue what's happening. You got 9 weeks to turn them into something. And you literally have to change everything you know about how you teach to get their attention. Because yelling and screaming, I tried it. Everyone does. It doesn't work. I just lose my voice. That's all it is. We're talking about most drill sergeants, they're regular people.
Yeah, they're really like all my drill sergeants was super cool. Like I'm talking about like some of the coolest people that I met in the military. They just was drill sergeants. And like you said, they had to transform me from a civilian to somewhat of a soldier in that 9-week time frame. And for me, I graduated basic training on my birthday. So it was like a whole thing for me. It was like a real experience.
There was I think we're teaching them how to enter and clear room. So I was a drill sergeant from 09 to 11, teaching them how to enter, clear room. And I'd been a drill sergeant for about 6 weeks. And I was just, I was just going off on these soldiers. They didn't do anything that bad. I was just trying to make a point. But the battalion command sergeant major, he was walking through. He didn't interrupt me. He didn't. He was a ranger guy. He used to be a drill sergeant too. And he knew not to interrupt me training. But when it was done, he pulled me over. And we kind of went behind the building.
Hi, I'm Kaci, Dr. Kaci. Welcome to Speaking Freedom. We are happy to have you, and we hope that we're able to help you in every way possible. Have a good evening.
He took off his soft cap. Drill sergeant, take off your hat. Take off my hat, wiping the sweat. And I clearly remember this story. It's a significant emotional event. It's like, Drill Sergeant Grimm, how do you want those soldiers to remember you? I mean, Sergeant Major, I got some ideas, but I don't think I'm going to have the right answer. What's the right answer? He goes, WEWAD, when I was a drill sergeant. Everyone tells WEWAD stories. He told me this, WEWAD. When I was a drill sergeant, I used to be able to go up there in the barracks down in Fort Benning, and I could make the walls sweat, dripping from all the sweat I'm pushing them through. I could cuss, I could train. But could I teach them how to shoot from the kneeling position?
Right.
Could I teach them how to react when they get that bad letter from home? Could I teach them that getting a college education will matter? Can I teach them that thing? And the answer was no. His name was, Lamont Christian. He said they just knew that Drill Sergeant Christian would just, man, he was tough. And he kind of, you see where that's going. And it made me really think. It's like, how are these guys going to remember me? And I remember that night, I pulled my drill sergeant aside. It was myself and 2 others underneath me. I said, let's have a talk. I don't mind one of us being tough, but we all need to be able to teach these things and these things and these things. And when they remember us, they want to be like this, not to be like me. I don't want to make many Grimms, but I want them to remember how this training was, remember how it benefited them, and I want that to continue. I don't want them just to remember me because I could make them PT till they die.
Right.
So that was really significant for me, and that forever changed how I interacted with soldiers, how I did training. Then I was a first sergeant for 4 years, and every time I watched my platoon sergeants give training, I would look through that lens. I was like, man, they're not going to remember you too kindly if you keep this up.
And I think that I think just from my experience with drill sergeants, it is very critical for soldiers to have a balanced experience. You do need the toughness because it makes you kind of buckle, like not buckle up, but buck up. It makes you kind of like, okay, like let me get my shit together. And I really value that experience. My basic training experience was particular and peculiar. I peed on myself on the final march because I didn't realize that we could not march. Like people stopped and still graduated. I thought that if you stopped, you wouldn't graduate. So when I missed the bathroom stop, and I was like, "Oh my God, I really got to pee," and I just
You got to do it.
toughed it out. And it's not even an embarrassing story because it shows my fortitude and my determination to finish. So like I was chafed between my legs and everything because I didn't march the whole 15K pissy and it's cold and like, but I felt the sense of accomplishment afterwards. So I don't ever like regret that experience. I actually value that experience because it didn't matter that I had pissed on myself. All that mattered was that I finished and I was going to graduate on my birthday.
So it's not an embarrassing story, but it is a funny story. And if anyone's listened to this that has ever served, they probably reacted like me. They smiled, and it probably reminded them of some crazy situation that they were in. I'm telling you, soldiers can just relate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter the color of skin or the gender, the MOS. Soldiers can just relate.
It's definitely something about being a soldier. So what was the least thing that you liked about your military experience?
Yeah.
I mean, not the Article 15s, but outside of that.
Gosh, that one's tough. I don't know that I could still. I don't know how effective I'd be if I was still in, given that I think a lot of money and time is spent on training that's not Army training. And so we're about to get political and cultural here for a second, and you and I can disagree and we can have a good time with it. I don't think when you think about the military, especially the Army and the Marines, those two specific, what should the training look like? What do civilians think that we're training on? And if they knew that we were having weekly training on gender ideology, and I don't care what side of the coin someone comes from on gender ideology. Right. If they knew that all this time and money was spent on this again and again and again, and you're talking about how you felt after that foot march, right? That resolve, you push through something hard. That's the idea of a soldier. But in this kind of training, based on what side you're on, that person doesn't get to speak up. So I try to get people to think about, forget Republicans and Democrats, forget liberal, conservative. Just picture this environment where you sit 100 soldiers down in training. And you're training something that is kind of divisive in America. It is. It's a hot button topic. And probably half the group is forced to be quiet. But then they'll have other training about having the mental, the toughness to stand up for what you think is right, the courage. But they're told to be quiet in the other one. I don't know how they go well together. I don't know.
So I came, of course, in the don't ask, don't tell era. So I'm sure that things have changed greatly since I got out in 2004 because the environment of society has changed. And it's a lot of things that is definitely forced down your throat, one way or another.
That's right.
During my time in, I don't think that the don't ask, don't tell policy wasn't like the best, but it wasn't the worst because it made people mind their damn business.
I agree with that. So what years were you in?
From 2000 to 2004.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with exactly what you said, like to a T. I
Yeah,
agree.
it just makes you mind your business because it was definitely a lot of lesbians. It was gay guys. It was all of those things. Shit, one of the girls that I was stationed with, I think that they was in a triple. The girl was dating the wife, and the husband would be around. So like it was a whole thing. But it was just one of those things that nobody ever really talked about. It was never a big deal. Whatever you did in your private time was like your private time, and I liked that about the military because it was no pressure either way.
And if people wanted to get in a debate about it after when they take off the uniform, man, go for it. You're grown
Right.
men and women.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, can you just imagine? I don't think that I would do well because I'm really outspoken with that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And mainly, I teach government, by the way. I'm a 12th grade government teacher, and
Okay.
they don't have a clue who I
Oh,
voted for.
I'm sure they get some other type of teaching because you prior service. So
That's right. That's
your
right.
your mindset is different.
Yep. And when we start talking about hot topic items, I don't ever put my bias out there. I mean, it frustrates them. They don't have a clue who I voted for.
Right.
They
Right.
don't have a clue, and that's how it should be.
Yeah.
It's not my job. But the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, in the middle, okay, so 20 might have been 2015 or 14. So I was the first sergeant out in Hawaii, and Barack Obama the administration had made the LGBT Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't called Pride Month; it was Awareness Month. And so we got these emails, the first sergeant in the company, and we had to put these flyers up, and we're starting to do training. And this is where it's kind of, I wish people could see both sides of this. That very same day, Allison, what the hell? I don't remember her last name. First name was Allison. Special. It's gonna drive me nuts all night tonight. Trying to remember her last name. First name was Allison, but she came knocking on my door. I'm like, hey, what's up? First sergeant, can I talk to you? Come on in. And left the door open. No reason not to. And she,
Right.
first sergeant, did you put those flyers up there? I said, I did. And a tear comes down, just one. She's not bawling. And she goes, I have always wondered when I could actually be in a place where I can talk to you as lesbian and just have this kind of a conversation. I'm thinking whether I agree with you or not. Wow. What
Right.
do you say to that? Just wow.
Right.
If I put myself in your shoes. But the other side of the coin is now the EO training. People are being forced to believe something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just saying, hey, let me just inform you on these different
Right.
things. Be careful how we talk to each other.
They make you support it basically.
Yes. And if they just say, like, these are the different things, equal opportunity, make sure we're treating people fair, all this stuff, dude, I'm in, all in. I'm in all
Right.
day.
Right. Right. Right.
But that's not what it was or what it is. And the other side of the coin is the same. What if someone gave training that said it is only straight marriage and there's nothing else?
Right.
And if you don't believe in that, you're full of hate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you expect soldiers to say? Of course, they're
Right.
going to buck up against that,
Right.
but they can't buck up on what they're doing
They're
now.
not allowed to see, but
Yeah,
and I think some of it is the thought of harassment for the soldiers that
sure.
are not straight. But in an environment with the military, it's a little bit of mixture of everybody, so you don't really know what people got going on, except for now, if they're making you identify, then that changes the whole stratosphere of what
Yeah.
you get. So
And
let me
and
ask you a question. Go ahead.
yeah, there's a negative side effect to it too. Is let's say I'm gay or I'm trans, I'm transitioning to be a woman, and 150 people in the company got to come sit in this training and are being force fed LGBTQ. I'm not trying to diminish. I'm trying to paint a picture. That's all I'm doing.
Right, right,
And here
right.
I am. I'm the trans person, or I'm gay and I'm quiet, and I'm watching all these soldiers is getting heated about being
Yeah,
forced.
and it makes them uncomfortable.
And then when we walk out of there, how do I expect them to look at me and talk to me?
Mhm,
You're
mhm.
part of the problem, man. It's
Yeah.
because of you. We're sitting through this training again, and all
Mhm,
this, and it makes it worse for me. So
mhm.
it's like a double-edged sword. We want
It
protection.
definitely is.
We want protections and equal things, but I don't have the answer.
I think that the don't ask, don't tell policy was probably best because you're not forcing people to view or see or accept or whatever because there are some people that's never going to accept it. And then there's some people that want to live the life that they want to live. But with the don't ask, don't tell policy, it just made it a private decision. And some decisions in life, even now with social media age, some
Oh
things
yeah,
should be left for private because right now people want to sell everything all the time. And it's some things that you have to leave for yourself. And definitely like that in the military and just being in a place like that where toughness is the mindset that you're supposed to have.
That's
So
right.
do you
I
do
didn't mean to
you
get political.
oh
I
no,
promise
no,
I
no.
didn't.
No, you're fine. Do you solicit to your students or young people to join the military? Would you suggest that?
Now that's a good question. I saw some report. Short answer is when the time seems right, when there's a kid that you see it fitting. I read some report probably 2 weeks ago that the military as a whole missed recruiting by about 25%.
Mm,
Now I want you to picture as a 92 Alpha, right? Let's say you're running the warehouse and you need a soldier with you.
mhm,
Your soldier PCSs, whatever, they're gone. They're like, hey, first sergeant, when are we getting the next one in? Oh, we're not. And that's one soldier that can mess up the whole supply
mhm,
chain. 25%. Okay, so I'm going somewhere with this. Why? Why are we missing so many people? I mean, we're not in Iraq. We're not. We're not Afghanistan. We're always going to have SF people everywhere,
right,
but we
right,
as a
right,
whole, we're not there. So we're not in a war in any place. Not really.
right.
So why is it so hard? Dealing with high school kids, I got your back on this one. I've been teaching high school for about 4 years now. I'm watching juniors and seniors doing this. In the city, here we go right off the bat. People think that tattoos all over the hands and the face is the way to go. Boom. Almost,
Automatic.
almost an entire culture of kids, high school seniors, aren't even eligible. They're
Mhm,
not. They're going to go get laser removal, and even then, you need a waiver. So that takes away a whole band of people. We don't even care if they're good. They're good or whatever. They're just tattoo. They're gone.
mhm. Right.
The ASVAB, I got like a 1/3 pass rate. 1/3 passing. Dang. Okay, let's look at the 1/3 that's passing. All right.
So out of those 1/3, if they got tattoos or anything, it's certain
Yeah.
things
Now,
that's automatically just
yeah. Now
knock them out.
listen. There's something that was gosh, it was everywhere. I don't know if you heard about it. COVID. You heard about COVID?
Mhm, mhm.
And so with high school kids, already teenagers are tough. You put them on phones and social
Right,
media,
right,
they're a
right.
mess. Then with COVID, now we mask them up
Mhm,
and they're hiding from everything, and we got these mental health issues. So student after student after student is on anxiety meds,
mhm.
depression meds. Those are the top two right there. I mean a lot. I mean a lot.
I didn't
Um,
realize that.
it's bad. I mean, it's
Now, I
really
know
bad.
that like young people generally have things going on at home. It makes it tough or whatever. Just naturally because that's the way life kind of is. It's very few that come from a, perfect home where it's not
Right.
a lot of discord or dysfunction. So I can only imagine how COVID has affected people that may have already had different struggles in their life.
Yeah. And it, I'm also torn on this one, right? Because I like how you mentioned it's tough at the house. I don't know how many parents are teaching to get what you got after that ruck march. That feeling of confidence only came from accomplishing something difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of kids are allowed to quit. They're allowed to
Mm-hmm.
give up. They're
Mm-hmm.
not told to have grit and stick through things. Um, yeah, so you get that combination of that upbringing plus all the medication. It's really tough. So to your question, do I solicit? I'm officially that guy at the school, right? I am. I'm that guy. When a 10th, 11th, 12th grader wants to join, oh, you need to get on and text Mr. Grimm. Um, I live in Indianapolis. It's pretty central in the state. I've driven 2.5 hours both directions, north and south, to go with a student to go see a recruiter. So it's on the up and up, and they know me for that. Army, Navy, Marines, it doesn't matter. They know as much as I love the Army,
Mm-hmm.
it's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So yeah, I have a really good relationship with some of the recruiting companies around here. So look, it's an online. I'm actually at an online high school right now, and said since kids are all over, um, use me to help connect with these kids. But if it's not on the up and up, man, you guys are toast.
Right.
And the guidance counselors, they know that. So I'm big on the ASVAB. We're actually doing it on Monday. We're 5 spots all over the state, and I'm trying to tell them, look, I don't even if you don't want to join the Army, open the door as a junior.
Yeah.
Down the road, it's good for 2 years, man. Do it a year and a half down the road. But please, 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 we have a generation of kids that don't have opportunities. Please take it, do your best. And if you want to walk through that door, you can, but don't
Yeah.
And don't shut doors on yourself. The world is already going to do that to you.
I definitely recommend the military for people that are lost, that need sense of direction and structure. My children often ask if I would want them to go to the military, and I wouldn't necessarily not want them to go, but I know the benefits of being in the military outside of the financial benefits and the lifetime of those type of perks, but like the mental benefits of being in the army and the maturity and all of that. So
Yeah.
I definitely recommend for people to do that. I think it was one of the best decisions that I made in my life when I think about not being 100% now, not none of those things, but the level of maturity that I was on when I got out of the military was something a whole lot different than the people that I was used to being around. They were like still on high school level things, and I was like, no, I'm not interested in none of that. So I definitely like to recommend it. I think it's a good way for people to get structure because it's a lot of structure that's needed. And I'm be honest with you, lately I've been feeling like the draft wasn't a bad thing because of the structure that was forced on people and grew them up. So now what we see the difference of when people were drafted versus people that they don't have no cares in the world, like so I think that that affects how society is as a whole because when you had to go into the army, there were certain things that you had to learn, and everybody had to learn it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna get skipped, unless there was a special circumstance.
Yeah.
But now there is nothing that forces children or teenagers or young adults to have a sense of structure or maturity.
And it leaves the parents. No, okay, that's not fair. It leaves the recruiting command thinking, how do we reach these kids now?
Mm.
And I don't want to demean teenagers when I say this, but the image is recruiting has to lower how they speak and lower the standard
Mm-hmm.
to get them. Instead of trying to bring them up to their level, they're almost lowering themselves. I mean, they've gone through so many recruiting slogans and commercial types in the last decade and a half. Did you know that they're going back to what you and I enlisted on? Be all you can be.
Yeah, no, because that was a good slogan.
Made sense.
Yeah.
It made sense. Be all you can be. So, and on paper, if you and I were to write down the benefits of the military for 4 years versus going to college,
Yeah.
you
One, you could
could.
go to college for free.
Come on. I
that
mean, come
that
on.
that in itself, like,
Now, you're
and
not.
if you serve at the right time, you gonna get some GI benefits. So even when you get out, you can go for free. And that was one of the things that I wish I would have done while I was in the military is took classes and went to school because
Yeah.
at the time I was just like, but but when I got out, it made no sense. But I'm not upset at the journey that I took in order to become who I am.
So you're talking about identity. I mean, yeah, well said. That's really well said. And the GI Bill, man, you're talking about kids. So we have 8 kids. And when I got out, I had 5. And we were at El Paso. I was almost got selected for the Sergeant Major's Academy, and we decided to retire and get out. That was a tough decision. But I'm staring at my computer, and you could transfer your GI Bill. And I'm like, I got 5 kids at the time. What do I give? Do I give 80% of a school year to this kid? How
Right.
do you? So I kept it all for myself. I got out. I got to say that the benefits of just getting out, whether you did 3 years or 20 are just awesome.
Yeah.
We got a VA hospital right here in the city. I picked up some more college when I got out. It's just, yeah,
So that was my
absolutely.
next question. What was the transition like after serving 20 years in the Army? What was the transition like getting out and becoming a civilian?
It was tough for me because I went straight into education and I was used to working for people with some pretty thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted real feedback. They could go back and forth and be upset, but they would take it and they would go do their jobs. Then I entered education. Some emotional people in education.
It's
I
not it's not education. It's just they civilians, so they all that
Oh,
type of
Lord
stuff.
have mercy. I was told that, Mr. Grimm, you can be abrasive sometimes. You can be arrogant. No, this gets things done.
Right, right,
No, not my first school year. My first year teaching, they pushed me out using evaluations as a way to do it. They doctored to get me out because it's just my nature. I butted heads
right.
with the principal,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking, I clearly know how to teach. This is a joke, absolute
Right.
joke.
It's
Um,
control.
No.
manipulation a little bit because they want to be able to control you. And the way the structure for college is for civilians, especially, is to teach you how to fall in line.
Yep.
And even though you're in the military and you learn how to fall in line, if it doesn't make sense, you're not falling in line. It's something that just don't make sense.
That's any good NCO will understand that. It's like, look, here are the instructions. Let's go make it happen. Hey, Sergeant, I don't know if you meant to say it, but this kind of thing right here doesn't make sense. Maybe this would be a little bit better. Any good NCO could receive that.
Right.
But I found in the civilian side that is few and far between. My current principal, she's awesome, but she's the first one out of like 5.
No, when I first got out, I worked at a place called PDS Heart. It like did heart monitors. And when I got hired, they were like, "So what are your goals?" And I was like, I want to take your position. Like I want you to get promoted, but in order for me to get into your shoes, I have to help you get promoted." Shit, that got me fired. That was,
but that's great.
3 weeks. After
that's
that,
great.
they was like, "I got to let you go." And they was like, "Well, don't say," like I had overheard them talking about trying to fire me. So when they was like, "Well, if she says something in the meeting, just let," because I'm a veteran. I'm gonna say something if something needs to be said. Like that's how we are taught. So the minute that I asked a question, they was like they was waiting, but I knew it though, so I didn't really care. So I made sure I asked a good one, and I think it was something that was like, okay, I know y'all trying to fire me, but it was for the same type of reason. They couldn't handle that I was the determined young lady, that I process information quickly, and that they just could not control me. And a lot of people, especially leaders, they want to be able to control you. They want you to be less than them or dumb yourself down so that they can feel more secure. And that's the problem really in the civilian world, because you don't learn how to take constructive criticism, and you don't know how to a lot of times people don't know how to use what somebody is saying to actually help them succeed versus seeing it as a way that like people are trying to tear them down. So your transition.
Yeah. So I'm at the point now. So 20 years, retired E8, first sergeant, and I got the 90% disability. My wife, she homeschools, so we don't have an income there, but I'm at the point now that, and I tell the principal, "Ma'am, listen, if you don't like what I did or what I said, let's have a conversation. But if we're going to butt heads, I'll just walk." Mm-hmm. It's not that serious. I will just walk. We have a teacher shortage. I'll go find something else to do. Right. And she appreciates that. So we have a relationship where she'll take feedback, and she knows when I speak, I'm not speaking out of hatred. We're not speaking out of hatred. Right. In fact, think about this, right? I don't know if you ever went to any like Soldier of the Month boards or mock boards. Someone says, what are your goals in the Army? We are almost instructed. You look that first sergeant in the eyes, I want your job one day, first sergeant. Yeah. We're told to do that, and it makes sense.
It's not an insult. It's not like I'm going to try to get you fired or anything like that. It's just I'm going to make my way so good to where I can have your job.
Yep. Well, I mean, what's the opposite of having goals?
Right.
You want someone that does not. It's so dumb. And you, we mentioned it before. While that situation sucks, obviously, right? But each night when you go to bed and you put your head down in your pillow, you can say, "Look, I stood up for what was right."
Yeah. And I did my best. So like, and that's what, man, so many people don't have integrity, and that is the thing. They don't feel no way about being manipulative or lacking the common sense of integrity and living an integral life. And it's frustrating, especially out trying to create brands and being in the entertainment world, because hardly any person in the entertainment world really have value, structure, or integrity. Their goal is to get over. So it is it's definitely trying at times.
You know what? How old are your kids?
My son just turned 14 and my daughter just turned 13. So I only got 2. But
perfect age for this though. So we'll take that situation you mentioned and the Article 15. Mm-hmm. And would you, this is kind of rhetorical, but would you be able to share those stories with them and say, "I did this because," and tell them the reason? I think that you could. And if you could not, this is not just you now, there's all of us listen. If you can't share these stories with your kids with pride, you might be living life a little bit wrong. You're
Mhm.
living for others. You're living to make a boss happy. You're living for money, living for the car payment, living to make someone happy. And it's just, we fall on our face time and time again. We should be able to tell our kids, look, mom stood up for something. This is
Mhm.
why I expect you to do it too. And you might get fired,
Mhm.
but your job should never trump your integrity.
It
There's all,
never, ever, ever. And
there's
and
another
and
job.
I definitely try to instill that in my children. I let them know the good, the bad, and the ugly of life because one, I wish my mama would have told me some things that I didn't have to learn on my own by bumping my
Yeah.
head. So I definitely instill that in them, and I think that they start to understand because at this age they're really just really grasping the realities of life and starting to understand the nature of adulthood and decision making on their own. And I really try my best to push them into that because I know other children's and parents, they are like, well, we don't, we're not letting them do this, we're not letting them decide that. And it's very limiting. But they have the opportunity to get a mom that's really like, okay, I want you to stand up for yourself. I want you to have your own thoughts, your own decisions, and understand the things that I went through that you don't have to go through, but learn from what I've gone through.
This is a, so the way that we kind of got in contact, I was reaching out to people about this website my buddy and I have, and I won't plug it if you want me to, I can, but my buddy and I, we got this heart for parents that are raising teens, right? We got this outreach and so we've discovered a lot of high schools are not really teaching the things that maybe they're going to need to learn to do.
Mm.
Here we go. Is your 14-year-old when when he finishes high school, 14,
Him, boy.
him, when he finishes high school, is he going to go have to factor trinomials in
No,
life?
no.
No, but
Not
that
unless he goes into like biology or something like,
by
but
choice.
9 times out of 10,
And so that's just an example, but there's so many things that, the schools aren't really teaching. So yeah, we put out these things about being just what you're doing. And I want you to hear this, parent to parent. It's about being intentional with our kids and say, look, let's sit down and tonight we're going to talk about the word integrity. Oh,
mm,
come on, mom, this is dumb. Stop. Put your phone down. Let
mm,
me share this story about when I didn't keep my job, and let me tell you why. And so yeah, this is this outreach we have about helping parents be intentional. And it's tough though. It's tough because being intentional means you're going to have an uncomfortable conversation. It's going to be awkward. But I mean, these are your kids we're talking about. We can't
right,
let you can't let TikTok teach them.
right. And that's what, Lord, that's a whole nother story. Look, that's a whole different show because I have spent so many days and they be like, well, I learned this. And I'm like, where you learning? If you don't stop listening to that goddamn TikTok, everything
Yep.
on TikTok is not what you need it to be to learn and really get to know what you need to know. This is just people just doing something to get views and
That's
likes and
right.
stuff. And they
So
don't always understand that.
listen, if I didn't make it clear, I'm gonna say it again. Stay the course.
Yes.
What you are doing with them, being intentional, talking about this stuff. This is the heart of what my buddy and I have. I'm proud of you. You should be a guest speaker in my high school one day.
If you send for me, I definitely will. So,
Man,
lastly, what advice would you give to active duty troops and or new veterans?
sure. Twofold. One is really practical, and one is just kind of a relationship. Practical. When you are getting ready to get out, I don't care what anyone thinks about you. I don't care how people judge you. I don't care how the first sergeant looks at you or the commander calls you a piece of crap. Get your behind to sit call 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Yes.
Every single thing that you've ever had done, you need to get documented about 5 times before you get out. When I was moving out, this veteran commission out of El Paso, he looked at my medical records, like 200 pages. He's like, where's the rest, first sergeant? So what do you mean? It's like, this should be about 1,400 pages. This specialist just had 14. I don't know what to tell you. I just,
Just 20 years, your file should be like 3, 4, 5 folders.
yep. He's like, wait a minute. You were drill sergeant. Yep. Your first sergeant, 4 years. Yep. You were airborne. He did all these things. Where's your medical records? In my story was like almost everyone else's. Ready? I got hurt. Maybe I went to sick call, but I dang sure didn't go back to work with the profile. I just kept going to work. And now here I am getting ready to get out. And there's no support from my family now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I dislocated my left ankle as a private playing softball in Korea. And I told him this, like, well, where's the rest of the documentation? They reset it down at Seoul. They put a cast on it. I had crutches for like 2 months at Fort Bragg, and I never went back again. I have arthritis in that foot. They're like, why didn't you go back? I said, I don't want to be called a piece of crap at work.
Right.
So my last 6 months, I made it a mission to go back. And so when I got out, they gave me 60% rating, first time go right away. So just as my retirement's kicking in, I got disability at the same time. It was perfect. And then since then, as things maybe got worse, and you go back a couple more times, you can get it to be increased.
Now it's definitely a little bit harder to get an increase from 70, 80, and 90 to get the 100, and probably because
Lord.
it's such a financial.
Listen,
is the hardest thing to do.
Okay, I was sitting about 7 months ago. I was sitting on like 87% when you add them all up, and they round up to 90%. I went and had a sleep study done at the Indianapolis VA. They said, "Man, you got sleep apnea. Why didn't you get it done when you're in the Army?" Because I don't want to take a night off and go get it done.
Right.
So I got my machine, and I was waiting for my rating. So at the same time, something with my back, my nose, 10%. See that crooked nose? Because I got the nose and that. So I got a 10% and a 50%. All at the same time. Check this out. My 87% gave me a 90% rating. I added a 10 and a 50, brought me to 94%, rounded down to 90%.
Yeah.
It did not go to 100.
You need you either need like 4 or 5 new ratings once you get to a certain percent in order to get to the 100, or you need like something like, if you, man, it's difficult. That last little 10%, you could just barely, just like you said, 94%, and they'll kick it down to the 90. So my last words and my final thoughts is, make sure not only do you get your documentation while you're in, but also go to the doctor when you get out, when your claim is in. You got to make sure you go to the doctor while your claim is going, because if not, then you're going to miss out on the benefits that you are entitled to. And they will deny you if you don't keep going to the doctor. Now, once you get your benefits, you might not have to go as much, especially until you get permanent total. But go to the doctor. Make sure you are being very consistent with going to the doctor. If you are at 90%, from 70 to 90%, you can definitely request unemployability if you would like, but just know that you cannot work during that period. Although you might get approved for Social Security if you're unemployable. It's the luck of the draw, though. Depending on where you are, they're a little bit more lenient with giving Social Security than other places. If you move to Florida, they probably gonna give you Social Security quick. If you're anywhere else, it's probably not gonna be so quick to get the Social Security, because they are looking for people. It's almost like with the VA benefits. They look for reasons to deny you more than they look for reasons to approve you. So with that being said, Luke, do you have anything else?
I did. I one last thing is that when I go to the VA, I have learned not to talk to veterans. Let me explain this. I'll see somebody with an 82nd Airborne hat. I'm like, "Oh man, when were you there?" And 45 minutes later, that guy is still talking about his military story. And I'm thinking, I'm not doing that again. Now check it. Now check this out though, right? I spent 20 years in the Army and I don't care about his story. I just want to go do my thing. And this poor guy though, he just wants somebody to share with. And I get that. But
it can be exhausting. I don't like going to group therapy, because in there is no real, like, we're going to talk about something and find a solution. It's just a whole lot of complaining. And about time you leave out of group therapy, sometimes you feel worse, because now you're not only thinking about your shit, but you're thinking about everybody else's shit that's in the group. Now you're even more stressed and depressed because you don't see hope. All you see is what everybody is going through and not how they got through it.
And so my advice on that is, get connected in a church. I'm going to be really specific with that and not be apologetic. Get connected with the church. And I promise you, I'm not a big National Guard fan, but you're going to find some National Guard folks there. You're going to find some recruiters there. You're going to find some veterans there. And once you find somebody that you can connect with, be intentional about becoming friends with them. It won't happen on its own. And now you got someone that every so often you can pick up a phone. There was a guy, a good friend, he just got back from Korea actually, but he was suicidal one night, and him and his wife knew to call me at 1 a.m. because of our connection. Guy's alive because of this. He had no other connection. So get connected. You're not alone. None of us are alone. We just kind of tell ourselves that we are. Yeah.
Well, that is our show, Luke. I really appreciate you being on the show. Please tell us how to find you so that we can connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you wanted to find me, it's these 16 things at yahoo.com. These 16 things at yahoo.com. Yeah, if you want to just talk about veteran stuff, if you want to talk about our outreach, that's fine. If you want to talk about the VA and how to navigate that process, how to navigate the GI Bill, maybe you got a teenage son or daughter that wants to join. I got your back there too. So these 16 things at yahoo.com, just find me and we'll chat.
All right, Luke. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thanks. Appreciate your time.
If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. New episode every Friday.